Hello everyone. We now have a couple more people, 11 people now that are in the call. Basically, if anyone is confused on why we didn't have the call earlier today at 6 o'clock, basically what happened was I had like an emergency thing that I had to take care of. I am so sorry. I know it's not a good look, especially for the new clients because they are, this is the first thing that they see of me. Right, so I don't want you thinking this is the norm. This isn't the norm. It's just a one-off scenario where I had to take care of something, but now we are good. We will have an extended call to make up for that time lost, and for all of the other time that we had, that the other calls that we missed. So I'll definitely do that. Someone seems to have just put their hand up. I'm gonna give you permission to unmute. I've given you permission to unmute. Tariq, you should have permission to unmute. Yeah, go on.
Sir, Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum salam.
Yes, sir. As I told you last day, I want to
Oh
know
yeah.
about the trading
Oh
range
yeah,
for
yeah, yeah.
weekly platform.
Yeah, I
I
remember
will
you
love to
wanted to
our.
go yeah, you wanted to go through how to trade the a ranging market, a 4 hour range. We'll go through that. That'll be the first thing we'll go through and we move on to the education side of our call. So we'll go through how to trade ranges. Ermi also has his hand up or her hand up, not quite sure. I've given you permission to unmute. You should be able to unmute. Uh, should be able to unmute. Your hand is up. I don't know if it's meant to be up. If it's meant to be up, then you should be.
Thank you, but in that class, sir, if you discussed a few steps, then I hope I can get it. If I will not learn it, then I will come to
I really can't hear you at all. Tarek, I'm so sorry. Your thing is like I can't really understand what you're saying.
I'm asking that you can discuss the ranges in that class also.
Yeah. We'll definitely do that. Yeah, we'll definitely go through that. That'll be the main topic of today's call. So, you also have your hand up. I've asked you to unmute. Not quite sure. I'll lower your hand, Tarek, because you have had your question answered. But now we
Hello.
do have a couple. Yeah, go on.
Hey, sorry, I had to change the settings on my microphone.
No
I'm
problem. No
new.
problem.
I'm new here. I just joined today.
Okay.
And I just had a quick question. Do you do I haven't went over all the videos, but I was wondering, do you refine your entries at all? Like, do you guys go
We
over like
yeah.
five and 1 minute entries?
That is our speciality, my friend. We start on those
Okay.
higher time frames from the 4 hour weekly, and we were able to refine those to the 1 minute. Right?
Yeah,
You will
cause
notice that on a couple of our videos, we refine from something like the weekly all the way down to something like the 1 minute time frame. We're able to
oh,
get a 2-3 pip stop loss. Right? Yeah.
okay.
So we definitely do refine. Refinement is our speciality, and you will see
All right.
hopefully
All right.
once you get into our calls
Yeah.
and you start seeing the trades that we take. Um, in fact, what I'll do is I remember there was a trade that we took on gold this week that ended up being very
Yeah.
profitable, where we refine our entry all the way down. So I'll show you an example of how to refine your entries through that trade.
The
So you
reason
should, yeah.
the
The
reason why
reason
I'm asking is
you're gone.
because I've been studying smart money for like about 4 months, and I noticed that that was one of the things you said that you just started about 4 months ago.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm still like when I get to the 1 minute, I'm good at picking the POI. I'm good at higher time frame, but as soon as I get to that 1 minute, man, I just can't seem to get a good entry. Like I'll get stopped
yeah.
out 2 to 3 times, and then I'll come back to the chart, and then I notice that price did end up going my way, but
Your entry
I'll have
wasn't
like
good.
that. Exactly, yeah. So and
Yeah,
and then I went all the way to your older videos, and I seen that you guys did use like bigger stop losses before, so that's why I was
yeah.
asking about if you do refine your entries, and how do you know when to enter and all that stuff.
Yeah, 100%. It's a valid question. Thank you for your question. Yeah, we
All
did
right.
have we did have relatively big stop losses before, maybe 20 pips, which is pretty average in terms of retail. But for smart money, that's pretty big. But now
Yeah.
we've been able to refine those entries all the way down to maybe 1 minute, 5 minute OBs, 1 minute distribution schematics, accumulation schematics. If you don't understand what I'm talking about, I'll obviously go through that. Amir
All right.
asks, can you go over lower time frame confirmations? Yeah, that's what my friend here was asking about. So that's what we'll go through. We'll go through how we're able to refine from that higher time frame POI 4 hour daily weekly POY and go into something like your 1 minute and 5 minute and be able to refine those entries and get 1 minute and 5 minute entries that you can get small stop losses from. We do now have a couple of questions. Marcos asks, if you're having trouble with the 1 minute, look at the 5 minute to make sure it's a zone of supply or demand. Usually the 1 minute, usually a 1 minute QM is a 5 minute OB. That's true as well. We'll go through that. I think I understand what you mean. Basically what he's saying is, say all of your time frames are bearish, and you're looking for a potential entry on the 1 minute or 5 minute, you should be able to get a relatively good entry from any sort of supply zone if you're looking to sell, any sort of demand zone if you're looking to buy. So that's, I think, Marcos is talking about. But we'll definitely go through that in far more detail later on in the call. Fibonacci, you say you have another question. Do you want to unmute? I will let you unmute. I've asked you to unmute if you want to unmute. Oh, why are you such a boss? That's absolutely amazing. Thank you so much. That's lighten up the mood a little bit, because I had a feeling that people are angry at me because the call is a bit late. And by the way, if anyone doesn't know, I had a little bit of an emergency I had to take care of. That's the reason why today's call is delayed. I did say that the call would be at 6 o'clock today, but we had to move it on. We had to delay it just because I had a couple of things to look after. I was gonna get one of our other top traders, Boost Your Pips and Smart Money Mo to do the call, but I thought it would just be unauthentic. You guys paid for me. I think you should get me, and therefore I don't want to cheap you out and give you. No, that sounds like I'm saying that they are like the cheaper version of me. That's not what I mean. I mean, you paid for me, and therefore I want to give you me. Therefore, that's why I decided to just delay it, but still give you a call by me. So yeah, that's the reasoning behind that. So sorry for anyone that was expecting the call to be a little bit earlier or a little bit, what I'm saying. But yeah, thank you all for understanding. No problem. Life happens. I'm new here as well. Yeah, great to hear that, because the new members, it doesn't give the right first impression. You want your first impression to be one of you're punctual, you're efficient, you're effective in the way you speak, in the way you bring a point across. Like, you want your audience to understand that. But it's not great if you're late, delaying calls on the first day someone joins, right? So, but anyway, I think that's all that's enough for like an intro. What I'll do now is I'll begin sharing my screen. First of all, let me just open up my chart. What we'll do first of all is we'll start off by breaking down gold. Gold is a trade that we took this week, that is running in some really nice profits. I want to show you right now. Give me a second. Let's go into watch list for the week, and then I'm going to scroll up a little bit. Okay, here we go. I'm going to start sharing my screen now. Yeah, I haven't started sharing yet. I'm about to start sharing. So here we go. You should now be able to see my screen. Please type yes in chat if you can see my screen. Yeah, okay, yeah, I'm getting loads of yeses now. Thank you all. Okay, so gold. How did gold go? Why did we take gold? And all of that good stuff, right? What I'm gonna do is, first of all, I'm gonna start sharing my. Let me go on to Discord. And what I'll do is I'll show you the forecast that I sent out into the group chat, where I was looking to potentially enter and how you could have entered this market, right? This was my potential entry that I wanted to get in on, right? I wanted to get an entry here to take the market lower. Also, there was another entry. I said that you could look. So what I'm saying, what I said was, there's a potential entry that you could enter, maybe re-enter from, but you could just set a market execution order and enter right now, like at the time that I sent the signal. So I said the market did react to a 1 minute POI and drop, so we could see the market sell off and you could enter right now. So those are the two entries, right? This entry from a 1 minute POI that the market started selling off from, and then we had the market. I wanted the market to come higher into my 1 hour POI, right? It was a 3 hour POI, right? So those are my two entries, right? Yeah, we are recording. I mean, of course, like every call, we record every call. Apparently a guy in Trade Talk seems to not be. Let me just give him. So someone seems to be. Let me just send this guy a link. So invite, copy invitation. Let's just send that out to him. to make sure, you know, we can get as many people benefiting as possible. But basically, as I was saying, if you go back to the watch list, those are my two potential entries. The entry at the price at which I posted the signal, or trade idea as we like to call it, and the other potential entry that you could have gotten with a better stop loss or whatever, right? So those are my two entries, right? I had higher time frame confluence because we had equal lows here. The market had also come into a demand zone. If I show you, I mean supply zone, not, I didn't mean to say demand zone. If I show you, you can see that the market had come into a 4-hour POI and I had touched it and sold off. So we were getting a re-entry on that sell-off, right? So we were expecting the market to really go lower from this point, to go all the way lower to take out equal lows. If I then show you the live, what ended up happening on the live chart, right? And I go into something like the 4-hour just to show you, you will see that the market did exactly as I said, right? The market came into my POI. So if I show you, right, I'll get rid of this. Won't let me delete. Okay, here we go. Right, this was the POI that I had drawn now on Discord. Right, the market came into it perfectly and sold off very nicely. If you entered, you could have caught, you know, 2,000 pips, but this is gold. You need to keep that in mind. You know, 2,000 pips on gold isn't going to be anywhere near 2,000 pips or something like GU, right? But this is a 4-hour time frame, so you might not be able to see that. But you can see, look, the market came into our entry price and sold off very, very nicely. So this was a picture perfect setup. I am still bearish on gold. I still believe that I will continue to drop off very nicely. What I think has happened now is we've had a little bit of distribution, right? You can see we've had the market lose bullish momentum, but forming higher highs and higher lows here. So higher high, another higher high. Then we have our first lower high. We have another lower high. So I think now we are really going to sell off for gold. There's no reason for it to go any higher because everything's been looked after. So what do I mean by that? I mean, for example, we had this OB here, this move up took care of that, right? Then we had this other OB here, this move up to come back to our OB took care of that, right? And then this we had a little bit of consolidation that the market just closed off for at the end of the week, which was a bit annoying, right? But I'm still holding gold. We'll see what happens. I hope it will continue to sell off all the way down. So for the question that someone was asking before about how you're able to refine those entries, so what you'll notice is we started on the 4-hour. So this is what we'll do. If we delete everything off the chart, right, you'll notice that we started on the 4-hour. There was a 4-hour POI, right? Valid 4-hour POI because you can see the engulfing candle, and also it breaks structure. As you can see, it breaks through this very clear level of structure. Therefore, this OB is very valid. The market then comes and taps into that OB and sells off very nicely. Comes back to take care of any levels and sells off some more, right? Then what we notice is, didn't mean to do that. Let me just zoom in, right? Then the market comes back into an OB here, right? And we're expecting the market to then sell off some more to take the market to the downside. And these were our entries, right? If I show you, I can't really, it's on my phone, the screenshot of my entry, but I entered right at the top, right? Because I wanted to get a good video out of it. And if it shows, you know, that the entry, like the actual forecast on my Discord, and then I show my actual entry price and it's, you know, the same, people are more likely to trust it. And, you know, I mean, better for me as well because I make more money in the trade. So, but yeah, I screenshotted it. I'll maybe post it in the group chat later on. I entered right at the top and we're holding this sell all the way down to take the market lower. It might come, maybe take care of any OBs here, but we're expecting it to continue to drop. There are some imbalances as well that the market needs to come and take care of. So you could argue there's something like here. So you could argue there's a small imbalance in this zone here. Right, so the market needs to come and take out that little imbalance, but that's not the main premise of this call, of this trade, right? Just because we have those equal lows, we are bearish overall in terms of our higher time frame market structure point of view. We are bearish overall. We've come into a 4-hour supply zone. We've sold off nicely. We look to be having a 4-hour distribution. We entered accordingly on the lower time frames. If you go on something like the 30-minute, there was a nice 30-minute OB that the market came into and sold off from. So that was our entry, right? So now we're expecting the market is to really sell off because everything has been looked after. You could argue if we draw it in from that wick, it's a bit clearer, right? It's taking care of that and it's sold off. So I'm hoping for this to really sell off at the beginning of this week, at the beginning of next week. So that was gold. Very nice setup. I hope a few of you made some good money from that trade. But that was gold. I think that's it isn't the greatest example of refinement because you don't really go into something like the 1 minute or the 5 minute. We only refine up to the 30 minute, which is fine because you don't necessarily have to have, everyone talks about how small their stop loss is. Don't sacrifice your trade just to have a small stop loss. That's not worth it. That's not that's not worth it for you. But what if you want to do something like this where you enter here, stop loss goes above here, which is fine, which is how many? Let's show you. If you enter here with your stop loss, oh no, wrong. I'll show you. If you enter here, your stop loss placed just here, and you're aiming for targets all the way down here, that's still a beautiful 1 to 16 trade, right? So don't sacrifice your trade just to get a small stop loss. That's not worth it. We do have now a couple of questions. Brian says, I see gold filling the small imbalance over the equal highs on the 1 hour time frame, then dropping. Let's take a look at what Brian is talking about. So equal highs. Are there any equal highs? What do I see? Not quite seeing any equal highs. You're probably right, but I can't see any equal highs at the moment. It's probably somewhere down here, maybe lower. But yeah, the point is we're bearish on gold, right? We're expecting to sell gold and we're expecting to hold it all the way down. Ty asks, you see it getting to 1733. 1733 is around here. Definitely, I'd say here. These would be your first targets. This would be easily my first target. I'd be happy to take, half of my position off the table here. Then I'd wait for it to maybe go lower, take out this imbalance, and maybe then go all the way lower here. And then I'd leave like 10% of my position open just to ride out that full thing with stop losses to break even or maybe in profit just because why not, right? But I definitely here is completely fine for take profit. Your first take profit at least. Brian says it's to the far right. Let's take a look. So equal highs. Oh, okay. So you mean it'll take out these equal highs? If this is what you mean, like there's equal highs here, right? The market could come take out those equal highs, come into this OB here, something like this, and then sell off. If that's what you mean, that looks valid. That looks valid. That's definitely looks valid. To potentially entering the market. But the only thing is, if I show you, you could, if you added the wick, the market has kind of already looked after that zone. So if you add this, so if I do this, look, if I show you, and we do this, and that's our candle, the market has already come back to look after that candle, right? And it's a valid setup. It's fulfilled all criteria, engulfing candle, breaking structure. So you could argue that that entry is not valid because it's already come back, but we have to wait and see. But it looks like a valid trade just from the get-go. Najhay asks, is there a difference between order blocks and supply and demand zones? If so, what is it? Basically, order blocks are a general name for both supply and demand zones. So supply and demand zones are order blocks, and order blocks are supply and demand zones. So what a supply zone is an order block where we are looking to sell the market. So you have something like this, right? We're expecting the market to come back into our zone, which is here, right? And we're then looking to sell the market. This is a supply zone, right? That's a supply zone. Say then we have something like this, right? Let me just delete that. Right. Say then we have something like this. The market form a demand zone, come away from that demand zone, come back then into our demand zone to go higher. Then this is a demand zone. So the two scenarios that we watch are supply zones like this, right? And then sell lower, right? And this is a supply zone, and then this is a demand zone. Right, so those are the two setups. Demand zones are just order blocks where we're buying, and supply zones are just order blocks where we're selling. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. If you're like beginner style, I'd say go over like the course. I think the course is just like a very beginner friendly type thing that you could go over. But that's a supply and demand zone. Just a quick overview of what a supply and demand zone is. Another trade that we were potentially going to enter is GU. GU ended up coming into an OB higher and then really selling off. So what I did was I entered off of our OB here that I called out, right? And I caught 40 pips, and then well, it ended up running for more than 40 pips, but I caught a 40 pip move from here, right? That I posted in the group. If I show you, and I show you right here, we go onto the watch list for the week, and I scroll up, and we go onto GU. Here we go. Those are my two POIs. It came into my POI higher and sold off for 70 pips. I ended up closing that trade for 40 pips worth of profit. So if I show you what ended up happening, and I replay the market, right? The market came. Oh yeah, my subscription. Yeah, I need to fix that. Basically, I'll fix that for the next call, the replay option. I need to get my replay option back. But basically, what happened was we had this little bit of buying followed by the selling, left behind a nice OB, a supply zone for to potentially enter the market. The market then came back to our supply zone, right, and sold off nicely. So this was my entry. It ended up running, if I show you the full profits, ended up running for 70 pips. I took it for 40 pips and I was out of the setup. Because I knew that there were equal highs up here that I didn't want to mess with. But I am still bearish. What I think is it will look after these equal highs. So what I think it will do is it will come take out these equal highs here, right? Then go lower. That's what I'm expecting. I'm expecting for something like this to happen. The market to come into the equal highs, yeah, maybe go lower then straight away. Right, but I am still bearish because we have that 4 hour OB and that those equal lows are very clear and that liquidity is sitting below those equal lows. So this trade was sent out on Discord. If I show you, you can see that POI, my higher time frame POI, not the higher time frame POI, but the POI that is higher on the screen. That was my entry, and I was looking to potentially take it lower, just below these equal lows. It definitely went below those equal lows. So if you did that, you would have made some nice profits. But that was GU. Very clear setup. Very clean. We have 4 hour confluence, right? We have that 4 hour OB, those equal lows on the 4 hour time frame to take the market below those lows. And then also we had weekly reaction to a weekly POI, right? So all time frames were looking bearish for GU, right? That's why I entered that setup, right? And that was a nice setup. So I am still bearish on it. It's just for the time being, I'm not going to be entering any new setups. Another trade that was that had a lot of hype around it in the group chat was CAD JPY. Right, CAD JPY was a trade that we took, that we didn't take. I don't know if we did take it. A couple of people wanted me to go through it, so I'll go through it because why not? Okay, iPhone the pack. You say you have a question. I'll allow you to unmute. Just give me a second. I've asked you to unmute. If you should be able to unmute. If you want to unmute, you can definitely go ahead and do that. But basically, we were looking to sell CAD JPY. We wanted to sell this pair. We wanted to sell it all the way down to take the market lower, right? This was a 5-minute little Wyckoff distribution action going on. We had the market form our little area of primary supply, a bias climax, accumulating liquidity, secondary test, UTAD, then breaking structure, returning to our last point of supply, and then really selling off, right? This trade was sent out, and I did break it down in the last call. And if I show you, I will get that up right now. And we go into the content section, and then we go right here. I think I do go through it. Let me just scroll through to find where I mentioned CAD JPY. Give me a second to do that. So now I'm just talking about GU. I think. Okay, here we go. Okay, here's CAD JPY. First of all, do you guys all see my screen, like the big YouTube screen? Just type yes in chat if you can see the YouTube screen. Yes, you can see the screen. Okay, great. Do you guys hear the screen? I'll play it. Do you hear the screen? Just type yes, I hear the screen. Okay, you don't hear the screen. I'll let you know what I'm saying. So basically, I'll play it. Let me play it. I'm talking about here. There's a little bit of Wyckoff in terms of 4 hour Wyckoff, right? That we could potentially be entering from, right? It's coming to formed our little area of primary supply, bias climax, accumulating liquidity, take out that liquidity for that UT, then come into our UTAD, right? And we're expecting the market to sell off all the way down and break structure for our UTAD, right? So we were expecting for the market to come here, maybe do a little bit of distribution on that UTAD on the 5-minute time frame, and then sell off, right? And if I continue playing the market, if I continue looking at it, you'll see this is where the market was. I was expecting for the market to sell off, do a little bit of distribution, then sell off. And if I play the market now and I show you what ended up happening, you can see we did have that play out very nicely. We had the market come into our area of Wyckoff distribution. So you have a primary supply, a bias climax, or secondary test, RUT, RUTAD, breaking structure, making it valid, coming back into an area of supply, and then selling off nicely. Right. So CAD JPY was a very, very nice setup. Right. This trade was also called in the last call. Right. So that was a nice setup that you guys could have been entering or watching. Right. This I think is a nice example of how you're able to refine those entries. I remember you asked how do you refine entries. I think this is a prime example of that. So what you do is you start on that daily time frame, right? And if you look at that daily time frame, you can see that there is a very clear daily POI. And I'll zoom in for you, right? We have this daily area of indecision forming a valid, very valid OB. So this is a very valid daily POI and daily order block or daily supply zone that the market could potentially sell from. The market then comes into our daily supply zone, and what you see is the market begin to distribute on the lower time frames. Also, it's not only distributing on the lower time frames, but distributing on something like the 4-hour time frame as like a 4-hour distribution schematic, right? Then if I show you on the 1 hour 5 minute time frame, you can see that not only is it distributing on the lower time frames, but also on the lower, not only on the higher time frames, but also on the lower time frames, we have a little bit of distribution in terms of a sell-off happening. A little bit of Wyckoff distribution happening before a potential sell-off to go to our 4-hour lows, right? So this is how you're able to refine from that daily time frame, then go to that 4-hour and look at that 4-hour distribution as a whole, then go into your 5-minute and get your 5-minute entry. So you probably could have entered here with your stop loss. Wrong thing. I just need to stop doing that. That was an accident. Make sure it gets back. So say you entered here with your stop losses placed here, right? You could have gotten, say you targeted all the way down here, right? You could have gotten a very nice 50R trade, right? And we are targeting lows all the way down there because remember, if it's a valid UTAD, it will break structure, right? So we're expecting for the market to come all the way below these lows. So we're looking at a 1 to 80 setup right now that the market could potentially be forming for us. So that's CAD JPY, and that's how you could potentially refine those entries. I think that's a nice little explanation of how you can go through refinement and all of that good stuff. Fibonacci asks, what is the next opportunity to get into CAD JPY? I got taken out. You got taken out. And the second question is, I found the back. My question is to take entry from either order block. Should you take an entry from the 50% or take entry from the weak candle? That's preference. So once I actually had to get rid of this, my brother came into my room, so I had to just get him out. But basically I'm back now. As I was saying, you asked me, should I get entries from the 50% of the candle or from the open of the candle or the weak candle, right? That's preference. If you get an entry of something, say for example, this is your OB, and you don't know whether to enter off your 50% or your open price, right? If you have enough faith in your analysis, either of those should trigger, right? If you have enough faith in your analysis and you don't mind not being triggered, there's a risk of you not being triggered, but you really want those high risk rewards, then what you'll do is you'll enter off the 50% with your stop loss placed here, targeting wherever, right? But say you're happy to sacrifice some of your risk to reward, but in order to ensure your entry, you will get your entry of the 1 of the Fibonacci. So those are your 2 potential ways to get entries, and that's how I'm potentially going to be looking at how to get entries. For me, I just always enter off a 1 because I don't like to miss trades. That's very, very annoying. If you miss a trade by a couple of pips and it ends up running for hundreds and hundreds of pips, you're really gonna hate yourself if you don't get your entry. So I just get entries off the 1 every single time. Because that's what I like the most and that's what's safest for me. Dan asks, could you go over any potential setups you should be looking for the next week? I'm really watching gold at the moment. So I'd be watching gold. Gold I'm watching CAD JPY, as I said. CAD JPY and gold are the ones that are like most pricking my eye, most interesting to me. I am also bearish on GU, so I'm just going to be looking if there are any entries and potential entries that we could be getting. But those are the two. I'd say gold and CAD JPY. Someone asks, Ami asks, how do you calculate gold pips? I don't either. So this is what you do. You go onto this website. Right, it's called Forex Time. Right, and then it's easy as pie, because all you have to do is, or you could go onto this other website, just type in profit calculator. It's the first thing that comes up. All right, profit calculator Forex. This one here, right? What you'll do is you'll type in you'll show in your pair, if it's a buy or a sell. Open put in your open price, put in your close price, right? And then put in the amount of lots you will enter by. The way you will choose the amount of lots you enter by is by using a risk calculator. So this is just how you enter trades right now, is what I'm showing you, right? So you go onto your risk calculator. This is a nice one that I use. You put in your account balance, the amount that you want to risk, the percentage risk you want to risk, your GBP for me, like my account currency, and then GBP ask price. Literally, that's it. And then it will give you a lot size that you need to use. Then you'll put that lot size into here, right? And you'll see that how much you will make if it ends up going to your final profits. So that's how you calculate profits and pips on gold. Use these two websites, and in fact, I will post them into the what do you call it, the Discord group right now. So give me a second. I'll do that for us. Let me share my Discord screen. Let me get off here, and I'll go on to. Let's go on content. Why not? Useful websites, and also the other one, which was the risk calculator. So let's use this. Share it. So those are the two websites. That's what I'd recommend that you use when you're using entries, when you're getting entries. Use the Steam app. It's amazing and faster. Yeah, I've never heard of it. I might look into it to see how we could potentially, if it's any good, we might get like a group membership and get like share a login if you want. But we'll have to look at it. I don't really know from the get-go. But we have a question. Someone asks, in the POI area, should be looking for distribution and accumulation rather than breaks of structures, as CAD JPY took us out after the break of structure on the 15-minute. That's case specific. So if I go back to here, right, it's really case specific. That's why we react and not predict, right? CAD JPY, if there was a nice supply zone, I would have entered CAD JPY. It's not necessarily just distribution or accumulation, because you could have a trade that is a perfect trade without a distribution or an accumulation, just a 1 minute POI. That's literally all it could be, and you could make a lot of money just trading 1 minute POIs as like a inside. So what you could do is you could have a 30-minute POI, right? Then in that 30-minute POI, you could have another 1 minute POI in that 30-minute POI that the market could come to, right? So you could have something like that, right? And that's something that people trade, and that's something that people are very profitable with. But for me, it's whatever showed me, right? If the market is showing me that it's distributing, well then great, I'll enter a sell for that distribution. If it showed me it's accumulating, I'll enter buys. Simple as. And that's literally all there is to it. And that's how you could potentially get entries. I may ask, could you go through lower time confirmation to see if the OB is valid or not? That's basically what we're going through this call. So what you do is you get your Wyckoff distributions accumulation. So for example, for this trade, if I zoom in for us and I just lock the screen so I can actually zoom in properly, right? You will notice that there was a Wyckoff distribution schematic. This was our UTAD, valid UTAD since it broke structure, left behind a nice supply zone. Market came into my supply zone, sold off very nicely, right? So literally that's it. So that's all lower time frame confirmations are, and that's all you have to do to get entries. You put your hand up. I've asked you to unmute. If you have any questions, please do unmute if you want to say anything. Yeah, go on.
Yeah. Based on that description you did right there, that looks good. Obviously the UTAD did break structure to the downside. I'm not very familiar with the names of Wyckoff, but as far as when the market is like accumulating and is coming up sometimes that last high before the UTAD usually breaks structure to the downside, and that's where I get confused, and then I put in a sell on that previous OB, if you get what I'm saying. So your UTAD right now, what's the what's the last high?
Last
no, not that one. No, not that one. The one before. What's that called?
This is a UTAD.
All right. So the high before the UTAD.
The UT,
yeah, that one sometimes. Yeah, that one sometimes breaks structure to the downside. Like it'll break the. Yeah.
That's just a case of reacting, not predicting. So what you'll do is, this is what I do. This is at least what I do, right? This is an amazing question, because what you have is there are two types of Wyckoff. There's and I'll show you. Let me show you. There's Wyckoff distribution phase type A and type B. I'll show you. This is type A. So if I show you the distribution schematic 2, and this is distribution schematic 1. So let me get up distribution schematic 1. Where is that? If I can find it. Distribution schematic 1. Here we go. So these are the two Wyckoff, the two types of Wyckoff. There's the first form of Wyckoff, which is the less popular Wyckoff, where basically we don't have a UTAD. The market only forms a UT and then sells off, right? Then what you're asking is really, how do you know if it's a type 1 or type 2, right? That's literally just waiting to see what the market does. If the market breaks structure below all lows, well then guess what? You know that it's a UT. It's without so for example, what I mean is, if the market breaks structure below all of these lows without coming higher than a level that you expect to call your UT, right? So say for example, we have something like this happen, the market form our UT and is beginning to break structure, you want to 100% get your entries from some sort of last point of supply from then on, because the market